Hey, what's happening everybody? So I'm here with John, and last video we showed you how to make these incredibly strong, easy to make with no special tools and just ridiculously lightweight cabinets and structures for inside your van or school bus or whatever you want to build out of them. And we also showed you that it ends up looking kind of ugly, which is the only real downside to it. But this time we're going to show you how to get really creative and just make this thing your own and make it look really cool. So what is this method that you've got to...
It's nothing new. It's normally done on floors. Mm-hmm. People want a fancy look on the floor. It's called the brown paper bag technique. Okay. You put all these ripped bits of brown paper bag, you glue them down, and you polyurethane over it. It gives it like a neat, like old leathery look to it. It's really neat and unique, and each time you do it, it's different.
Nice. Yeah, we saw a few examples and 2 van tours of 2 vans you built. And the links for those are in the description. Make sure you check those out because there's some really cool things in there that are really going to help you out if you're trying to build a custom van. Really cool stuff in there. Check the description. So yeah, you use paper bags. What else can you use? You
can use maps. We're working on one cabinet right now that's got maps, and we stain the maps so they look old and weathered. It's a really neat effect. You could use newspapers, magazine clippings. You could use pictures. I mean, you could... anything you could think of, you can make something really unique. And the layers that we're going to add are going to add even more strength to these.
Okay. Very cool, very cool. All right, well, let's get started.
I'm going to demonstrate with just brown paper bag. You can get these in entire rolls right at Lowe's or Home Depot. Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier than going out and trying to find some. But all we're going to do is we're going to rip this stuff up, get rid of any straight edges because that's not going to look natural on here. We want just random, irregular shapes. And what you're going to do is pick a size, like I like to do hand-sized pieces. So I'm going to take all these random pieces, and what we're doing is we're crumpling them up nice and tight, and what it does is when we apply glue later, the water is going to seep into those and give it like a grain. It's such a neat technique. Now you could do it without wrinkling them, and it looks neat too. It's just a totally different look. I mean, it looks more like stacked rocks.
There's a lot of room to get really creative.
Yeah.
Right?
One thing I could talk about while I do this is when you do this, measure your glue and water ratio. Because part of doing this is gluing this down with just Elmer's glue, and you can get it in a big gallon jug, and you add water, you cut it down with water. Mm-hmm. Now the amount of water in it really affects the appearance of these. So one thing anyone can do trying to do this is set themselves up a little test. Try different amounts of water. I found that I like 60% water to 40% glue. Okay. And I do that on a little kitchen scale. That way, if I get caught halfway in a project, I can always mix some more later and it's going to match the rest of what I've done before.
Nice. Because if you use different mixtures, it's going to be totally different.
You'll see it, and it does look way different. So take your time, measure the glue and water ratio, and it makes a really big difference.
So I know we're working with your paper method here, but what other things you could use, like shag carpet?
Oh yeah,
like cloth to cover all of this.
You could even do countertop laminate would glue down really nice and give you like a factory look. Mm-hmm. In fact, that was one of the tests I was going to do before coming up with the screen and seeing how well laminates just glued right to it would have worked. And I never got to that spot, but I would imagine that would look really sharp.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is all done. This is very messy, so I'm going to put some gloves on. And I've already got some pre-mixed glue. You can see it's really thin and runny. It splashes around quite a bit. And this should be somewhere around that 60-40 mix I was telling you about. But it's real thin, and all we're going to do is I'm going to dip these pieces in, or sometimes just dip your hand in, and you're going to coat just both sides. You'll see it'll get really shiny, and it's got to be completely saturated. You don't want any dry spots.
Couldn't you just dip it in?
You could. I've just always used this method, so I just stick with it. Then when you stick it down, it's stuck there. And I'll do this for each and every piece, and it goes pretty quick. A piece this size can be covered maybe in 10 minutes total. But we're going to do the same thing. I try not to do it over the workpiece. What happens if you get big drops like that, and you fail to clean them up or you miss them, then when it dries it becomes apparent. It ends up like kind of a different color.
Oh, that's a really good thing to know.
So all we're doing is we're not doing any special technique here. I'm just laying them down however they fall randomly. And
Flatten it out a little bit.
and we'll have to show with the camera after I put this down, but you could already see some of the grain from the wrinkles in the paper starting to come through in here. And it makes it look like old leather. It's just really neat. Now, a few other things we can talk about and mention while I'm finishing this up. I didn't show this earlier. This is that big thing of Elmer's glue all that they can get to mix this up. Another point is how I took all these pieces and individually crumpled them. You can also take a big arm's width piece and just crumple it, pre-crumple the whole thing, sit on it, jump up and down on it, whatever you gotta do to get some grain and wrinkles into it, and then just start tearing chunks off as you need it also. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can probably speed up the technique, and I'm sure others will probably chime in with other ideas that will really speed this up. But this is probably one of the more time-intensive parts. You wouldn't think it is, but you know, you start with a piece this big, and each time you're overlapping and losing that much surface area, so it can take a little while to cover the surface with this. But you can see this is almost already done, and it's been what, maybe about 10 minutes.
Somewhere in there, yeah. How long does this take to completely dry?
Probably about an hour with our conditions right now. What I like to do is do this during the day, and I'll drag it outside to sit and bake in the sun. And when you do that, I mean, it could be 15 minutes, and it's
Wow.
you're ready to. Sometimes, if you don't like how it's looking, you can just wipe a layer of glue over it again, and then it's ready. From that point on, all you got to do is stain it. And I use like just Minwax oil-based stain. You rub it right over it. Once it dries, you just start doing layers of poly. And I've used both, you know, normal brush on.
Is the Minwax oil-based stain the same thing as poly, or are those separate things?
They're separate things. The stain will give it different colors. And if you go back to the Van Tour videos we started with, you'll notice one had really light cabinets that were almost like an almond color. The other one had a real deep, rich chocolate color. So, I mean, you can go anywhere from blacks to like the cherry, the redder tones. And by adding the stain, it's hard to see with this, but you can start seeing all these lines of grain come through, and all these different boundaries between all these pieces. They will pick up that color and really give it this veiny, spidery look. It's really neat. So
gives it a lot of depth
and each step through the process, it gets better and better and more pronounced. You do the stain, and all these areas and all those wrinkles really pick it up, and it gives it that look. And then by the time you seal it with the polyurethane, it really gives it a really deep look to it. It's really neat to see.
So we're not going to have time to do that tonight because this isn't going to be done in time, right?
That's correct.
So what is the actual process of doing the stain and the poly? And if you're using like maps or Christmas paper or People Magazine, Justin Bieber faces or something, you're probably going to skip the stain and go straight to the poly. So the poly, the point of that is to seal it, right?
To seal it and protect it. It gives it a hard shell.
Which also strengthens this?
It does. And I've noticed as I've built these cabinets and sealed them and polyurethaned them, they have gotten better and better when it comes to the strength qualities.
So this is the mini wax wood finish. This is the stain, right?
That's just stain.
That penetrates, seals, and stains.
And that's oil-based. That can be water-based or oil-based. I've only used oil-based, so that's the only thing I could speak to. I don't know how well the water-based stains would work. But I've stuck with the oil-based, and we've done different shades, and then I just use a clear gloss, fast-drying polyurethane. I've also done the wipe-on poly, and that's worked really well too. But I'll do several coats until I'm happy with the gloss.
Okay, so let's do a step-by-step process here for someone who's never done this kind of thing.
So assuming this was dry and this was ready for treatment, I would get myself a paper towel. So I'd have a paper towel and some gloves, and I'm just going to put this stain on in small circles.
Like swirl it around?
Yeah, swirl it around, get it nice and even looking. You're going to let that dry until it's dry to the touch, basically.
Okay, how long does that take?
I've seen it take actually a day before, because that oil doesn't like to dry like the water does. And the oil actually has to be absorbed in, where the water here is going to evaporate off.
Okay.
So that part does take some waiting, but once that's done, and it's stained to your liking and it's dry, we're just going to take the polyurethane, these cheap foam brushes. I think they're a little over $1. They're super cheap, and you just brush it on in long strokes.
And that's it?
And that's it.
And just one coat of each?
Depends on your taste. Each coat you do of the stain, it's going to get darker and darker.
Okay.
So I've done some with one coat and some with 3 or 4 coats to get the right look.
Will more coats add more dimension to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything you do to this,
It'll darken it. It'll darken it overall if you have a dark shade, but it'll also make all the different angles.
yeah,
pop
all the
more.
features will really stand out.
Okay, cool.
And as you remember, that was kind of lumpy to begin with, but now that we've got all this texture, you'll never notice a little blemish in the cabinet. It just washes away. And like I said, this brushes on in 1 coat, 2 coats, 3 coats, whatever your preference is and how you like your gloss and sheen to look.
Nice. That is so cool. Yeah, like we said, you can use shag carpet if you want. You can use leopard print. However weird you want to get with this is, let your freak out. You know, let's do whatever you want here. But this is cool. I love this. And like I said, check out the other tour video we got of one of the vans he built with the maps, because the maps are just, I don't know, this is something special to me. Anyway, is there anything else you can say about this process? Because this is
Not really. I guess on a full cabinet build, say if we were doing this and this was finished, we'd take the paper and wrap them around the insides.
Oh.
That can help protect this edge some. And then once it's on the back side, just to keep it from peeling away, you could use like white colored duct tape or something that would match to hold them down more. You've got a lot of options there just to tidy things up.
Even staples or something.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you really don't need to do it, but you've got the option.
Okay, cool.
I do recommend anyone that wants to do this, so do some experiments. Get a sheet of foam, chop it up, try different things, try different finishes, try different stains. Because once you commit to it, of course, I mean, it's kind of hard to reverse the process.
Yeah, once you've gone through the work of doing this,
Yeah.
which by the way, watching this process doesn't seem like it takes any more time than it does to use wood.
It really doesn't.
Which is the traditional.
It's a little messier. I mean, you're dealing with glue that's terrible. That Gorilla Glue is really hard to get off.
Yeah, well, you can wear gloves and
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah,
you don't have to
gloves.
sweep up wood shavings. You don't have to use power tools. You
Yeah,
have
definitely.
to learn how to use power tools.
This is probably the only one I could imagine someone doing on a picnic table somewhere without disturbing everyone else around.
Definitely.
So,
cool. Well, thank you so much.
thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys. Love yourself. Woo!